to us about this shift in tone that we're seeing, not just from lawmakers, but also from companies, as they're starting to really reckon with the fact that we're in a completely different era as it relates to AI safety.
Yeah, so in the US, we've seen a shift with US companies, so like Meta and Google, removing some of the language that they had in their various terms of use and sort of responsible practices. So it's less focused on things like accountability, less focused on not participating in surveillance, that sort of thing, and less of a focus on this general concept of safety. And there was recently this AI Action Summit where JD Vance came and spoke and said that he thinks that the focus should now be on opportunity. And it seems like the larger tech companies are following suit on that.
Margaret, if the large tech companies aren't necessarily the ones who put the framework into place when it comes to rules, regulations, does the government need to step in? What's your view there?
Yeah, so my view of the role of government, and people have different views here, is that the government should be set up to protect the people, not to protect companies. Creating a marketplace of ideas that companies can sort of thrive in, but ultimately stepping in where companies can't step in order to make sure that there's a level playing field, that everyone can do the responsible thing within the context of market dynamics where you might accidentally destroy your company if you're trying to do all the things that are the best for the people, right? Like companies exist to make money. And so there needs to be a counterbalance that sort of thinks about, well, what if we're not making money? What if we care about people? And what can we put in place for all companies to abide by and then change the marketplace dynamics in light of that leveled playing field? Well,
David Sachs is crypto and AI czar. Are you confident that the Trump administration will put into place policies that will protect people?
I think the jury's still out on that. There definitely is interest in growing the economy. So they've spoken a lot about creating healthy competition, that sort of thing. I haven't seen as much of their thoughts on protecting people and what that is. I think right now there's sort of a reactionary force. So there's always pendulum swings in ethics. People care a lot about ethics and safety and things like that. And then people absolutely do not. I think we're having a little bit of a pendulum swing right now back to not being as concerned about foreseeable risks. But hopefully the government will listen to the will of the people and step in where no one else will help them.
Margaret, just a couple years ago, we had companies and just a wide swath of the AI community coming out and highlighting the existential risks. Some of these AI safety groups kind of dubbed as doomer types, if you will. Elon Musk has a growing influence in Washington, and he's been one of those at the forefront of kind of highlighting these existential risks as he's building his own AI technology. What do you make of his influence, but also the existential risks that have been raised before?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. This is a really big discussion in ethics circles. There's a little bit of an issue where people who focus on existential risk tend to drown out the concerns about current discrimination. So that causes a little bit of tension in ethical discussions. Elon Musk in particular, I'm pretty concerned about the role he has throughout the government right now. But within the context of AI in particular, he doesn't seem to be someone who would really stand up for making sure technology is not discriminatory or doesn't disproportionately harm some subpopulations. So there's a pretty big risk there. Existential risk is now less of an issue. Within the past few months, we've seen some stepping down from that as part of these pendulum swings. And so one would hope that that would mean that the immediate and current harms of AI would have more of a center stage. But as it seems to be right now, neither current harms nor foreseeable harms are really much of the focus.
Even coming out of the Paris AI Action Summit, so much of the language shifted from safety to security, the UK Safety Institute being rebranded as the UK Security Institute. Who should we look to as a leader for, how to build not just innovative technology, but also responsible AI technology?
Yeah, So there's a bunch of different ways to kind of approach this. One is via governments and one is via different companies. So the company I work for, Hugging Face, takes a approach of being transparent and open because that's a way of making yourself accountable to people. So even in marketplace dynamics where you're sort of going for profit, you also have to show your work and that you're doing responsible things. So this is an area where openness can really be helpful in helping drive forward responsible practices. And then, there's also been a lot of really nice work in the EU on legislation. The EU and the US are not currently fully aligned on what to prioritize. But I've definitely appreciated a lot of their work on legislation that looks at foreseeable harms and risks as well as benefits.
Margaret, what are the stakes here? Like, what could go wrong if we don't get this right as a society?
Yeah, so we're in a situation right now where there's a large centralization of power for the AI companies. And the larger ones, and they're accruing a lot of wealth while a lot of other people are losing their jobs. And so there's more and more of a divide between the have-nots and the have-yachts, as Trudeau said recently. So you're really seeing that the wealthy people are getting wealthier and people who are just struggling by are losing their jobs or having their data used in these AI systems that then the larger tech companies are benefiting from while they can't even get, a basic income. So this massive divide is happening right now. There has been some discussion about UBI, like universal basic income, but I haven't seen that really moving forward in the AI world, despite the great idea there. And so that's happening now. And then that also means that people who are disempowered are going to be more subject to things like surveillance, more subject to non-consensual usage of their content in a way that it can be used to further harm them, not give them the medical benefits they need, this sort of thing, because of something they had said on social media. You can get into really nasty territory in terms of the rights to the general public, the rights that people have.